Okay, let's go ahead and tackle this algebra word problem. That's the topic of this particular video. And I know many of you out there just love algebra word problems. Well, I'm being kind of funny because most math students, when you say, hey, listen, we're going to do these algebra word problems, the typical expression is one like this. It's pretty scary. There's nothing scarier than algebra word problems for many math students, but you got to relax, okay? Math is used for what? Well, it's used to solve problems. And in algebra, algebra word problems is basically an application of the algebra skills that hopefully you are learning in class. But like any problem, any big problem, we just want to break it down in its component parts. And if we can learn how to do that, you're going to be okay with these word problems. So I'm going to talk to you about a general approach to doing word problems, okay? Because there isn't no one secret formula to do all word problems, because every word problem is different and it's going to require could require, let's say, different approaches. But in general, okay, we can have like a basic general plan that's going to apply to all word problems. So I'm going to review the basic general steps that you should be thinking about when you're talking about algebra word problems. And obviously, we're going to solve this particular problem here in a second. But let's quickly just read it. It says, with a tailwind, a plane can fly 960 miles in 3 hours. Now, going against the wind, the plane can fly the same distance in 4 hours. Okay. So, what are the wind speed and the airspeed of the plane? Okay. So, obviously, we got an airplane problem going on here. We got the wind involved. Sometimes the wind's going with us, and sometimes the wind's going against us. So that's going to obviously influence the amount of time it takes us to get to a particular location. So we're going to break all of this down in just 1 second. But first, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John. I'm the founder of TabletClass Math. I'm also a middle and high school math teacher, and over several years, I've constructed what I like to believe is one of the best online math help programs there is. Of course, I'll let you be the judge of that. If you're interested, you could check out my math help program by following the link in the description of this video. But basically, I have 100 plus different math courses. I have all the main courses like pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2. I'm going to be launching pre-calculus here shortly. But I do a lot in the area of test preparation as well. So if you're preparing for the GED, HiSET, maybe the GRE, GMAT, ASVAB, CLEP exam, AccuPlacer, ALEX, SAT, ACT. Let's see here. Maybe a teacher certification exam, maybe a nursing entrance exam. All those exams I've mentioned have significant math on them. Okay, there's a matter of fact, more than just basic math. Some of those exams have pretty advanced math, and if you don't get to the math section on these exams, you don't pass those exams. Okay, which have negative consequences for your goals. So I can definitely help you out. Just go to my site, check out my full course catalog, and if I don't have the exam you're preparing for, drop me a line and I'll help you out the best I can. I also do a lot with independent learners like homeschoolers. So if you homeschool, I got a great homeschool program. And then lastly, help those of you that are just struggling in your math class. Okay, so it can definitely help you out. But one thing I can't do for you that you must do for yourself if you're serious about improving in mathematics, and I assume that you are if you're watching this video, that is the following. Okay, you have to take great math notes. Over decades of teaching mathematics, it's just apparent to me those students who really take the time and effort to take great math notes almost always do well. Okay, and the reverse is true. Those students are just too busy looking at their cell phone, talking to their friends, and doing homework for other classes while you're in math class. Well, don't be surprised that you're struggling. Okay, so you got to focus to learn math. There's no other way. There's no shortcuts, and it is work. But if you put in the work and you're focused and engaged, guess what? For the most part, all of you out there are going to do very, very well. Okay, but if you do any of these things, I'm not trying to make you feel bad because I was definitely distracted way back in the good old days of the 1980s in class. Of course, I didn't have a cell phone, and I'm glad I didn't because if I had a cell phone, I don't even know if I would have graduated because I would have been completely distracted. So it's a lot of work to stay focused, but it's up to you. It's your own responsibility to do so. So no other activity it's better than note-taking to force you to stay focused, okay? So definitely work on your notes, but as you're doing that, you still need something to study from, so I offer detailed comprehensive math notes to include pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, and algebra 2 and trigonometry. You can find links to those notes in the description of this video. Okay, so here's our problem. Obviously, if you want to try it, go ahead and pause the video and give it a whirl. But let's just quickly talk about the main steps to solve an algebra word problem. So the first thing is you want to read the problem. Now, some of you are out there like saying, okay, that's kind of obvious. Well, no, that's not what I mean. Okay, I mean, you need to read the problem like at least 5 times. So don't just read the problem and then start doing math. Okay, that's not, you shouldn't go into a word problem like that. You want to read it, get a feel for what's going on, and then you're going to have to reread it and read it again, to continue to pull information out of the problem. So don't ever just read the problem once and then go. Okay, so you're going to have to read, and read. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, the second thing is you want to create some sort of model, all right? It could be some sort of sketch, it could be some sort of table, it could be something, but try to model the information that's in the problem, okay? So this is really, really important, right? So it could be, stylistically, it could be different for different students, but you just don't want to go from, the actual words in the prompt to like an equation, right? You try to construct some sort of model. It's going to be very, very helpful. Now, the third thing is you need to assign, okay, some variable or variables. It all depends on what the situation applies, but you need to say, okay, we're going to let x equal to this, all right, or let y equal to that. So, we are doing algebra here, so if you're going to, assign a variable, you got to be clear on what that variable represents. Oftentimes, it's going to represent the unknown value that you're trying to solve for in the problem. Now, the fourth thing is you want to, once you've assigned variables and you kind of modeled information, you want to try to build some sort of equation, okay, some sort of equation or equations, all depending on the type of problem that you're dealing with. And it's going to involve, obviously, the variable that you have assigned, okay, because you can't solve for a variable unless you build some equations. Now, when you're building equations, you need to look for relationships. And this is where knowing basic formulas, okay, come into play. And the formula that we're going to be using in this particular problem is rate times time is equal to distance. This right here you should know, okay, it's a basic, in basic algebra or a math student. So rate times time, speed times time is equal to distance. You should be familiar with this formula. If you're not, there it is. We're going to use it here in a second, but this is a big one. And there's other basic kind of formulas here. So again, this is just a general overview of the steps you want to take in a algebra word problem. So you're going to build equations. Again, when you're doing that, you might be using a formula because a formula has some sort of relationship between variables, right? All right, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to solve your equation or equations, okay? Now, at this point, a lot of students think they're done. Oh, I solved the equation, I'm done with the problem. Nope, not exactly. The sixth step is you need to make sure you answer the question, okay? So oftentimes when you solve these equations, you may have to do one or two additional steps to actually solve or answer the question asked in the original problem. So you're not done until you say, okay, what did I just solve for? Let me reread the problem again, make sure that I have the correct answer, and then answer the question, right? So this is a basic model for word problems. Now, let me just say right now that I have other videos in my YouTube channel, in my pre-algebra and algebra playlist, I think even my Algebra 2 playlist on word problems. So you could practice more word problems by going to those particular videos if you like the way I'm breaking things down so far. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get into this problem. All right, so let's read it again. So with a tailwind, now let's just make sure we understand conceptually what a tailwind is. So here's our airplane. It's flying along in the sky. So we're talking about a tailwind and a headwind here. So a tailwind is if you're going this way, it's wind that's behind us. So is it going to make the airplane go faster or slower? Well, obviously, it's wind to our back, so this is going to make the speed of the plane faster. Likewise, if here's my airplane and I got a wind blowing, into into the airplane, it's going to slow it down. So we just need to have some basic idea of the definitions here. So with the tailwind, a plane can fly 960 miles in 3 hours. Okay. Now going against the wind, that would be called headwind. The plane can fly the same distance in 4 hours. So we're talking about the same distance here. Okay, so that's interesting. And what is that distance? It's 960 miles. Okay. All right, so with the tailwind, okay, obviously the airplane is going to be going faster. It takes 3 hours, okay, to do this 960 miles. And with the headwind, it takes 4 hours. So here's kind of like a basic model, some sort of sketch. And then we want to answer what? What are the wind speed? Okay, so here it's the speed of the wind, and then what is the airspeed of the aircraft? Because the aircraft is going at a particular speed, okay, and then we have this wind speed that's either slowing us or making us go faster or slowing us down, okay? All right, so that is the problem. Now, of course, I'm going to refer back to the problem as I build out my equations here, but this is my this is what I'm talking about, building a model or sketch, something like this, so you kind of see what's going on. Now in algebra, once you learn how to do one style of problems, these are what we call motion problems. Like very common. Okay, so once you get this problem down, you'll see other similar problems like it. So especially in basic algebra 1, there's kind of a variety of problems, common type of word problems, that if you understand how to solve one, you'll be able to solve others. Okay, so again, so the airspeed, all right, is going to be the ground speed of the airplane plus or minus the wind speed, depending on whether it's a headwind or tailwind. Okay, now remember that other formula that I said that we're going to be using. So rate times time is equal to distance. Rate is what? Rate is speed, if you didn't know what that is. Time, okay, is obviously time. And distance is things like what we have right here, like miles, right? So one thing we want to be careful about is, okay, we're talking about rate times time is equal to distance. Our distance is measured in miles, okay, so this is important. Our time has been given to us in hours, okay. So our speed is going to be miles per hour, okay, miles per hour, because I'm dealing with miles and hours. So you got to be careful with the units of measure. Again, in this particular problem, we don't have to do any conversion, but you may have to do converting units of measure in other problems, okay? Again, I have other videos, other word problems. You can check those out in my playlist, but let's get to this problem here. All right, let's keep going. Now, the next thing is, let's go ahead and assign some variables. So I said, let's let x, we'll choose this variable x, let's let x equal the airspeed of the plane in miles per hour. Again, the speed, we're dealing with miles per hour. And then we'll let y, okay, be the wind speed. Okay, so the wind, so let's just kind of be a little bit more precise with what's going on. So the airplane is going from here to here. Okay, so here's the plane. It's going like so, all right? Now, the wind could be like this, all right? It's going to be going at some mile an hour. So as the plane is going from here to here, and the wind is in this direction, it is what? This is the tailwind. This is when it does it in 3 hours, right? Because it's faster. But the wind is still in this direction, so when the airplane returns, it's doing it in 4 hours, okay? So, but the wind speed is still constant, and it's in one particular direction. So here's our plane on its return trip, and now it's going against the wind. But the wind, again, is going to be at one speed, so we could just say, okay, let's let y be equal to the speed of the wind, and then we'll let x be equal to the airspeed, okay? All right, so that's basically the two variables that I have. Now let's go ahead and break this into a table. Okay, using tables is really, really good when we're dealing with algebra word problems. It's a great kind of graphic organizer. So again, we want to be using our formula, rate times time is equal to distance. But let me show you how I broke this up. So what do we got going on here? Well, we have wind. We have to consider the wind. And then we have the ground speed of the aircraft, okay? Now, the ground speed would be like the actual speed it's flying, okay? Like how fast it's going when we consider the wind, okay? Then we have the time right there it took to travel or complete the flight, and then we have the distance the airplane traveled. All right, so let's take a look at this wind situation. We have a tailwind. So the tailwind, remember x is the speed of the airplane, okay? Remember I just established those variables, and y is the wind speed. Okay. All right, so the ground speed is kind of like the actual speed of the aircraft. So here, if my airplane is going x and I have a tailwind, I'm going to have an additional like speed added to my actual ground speed. So it's going to be x plus y. So I'm actually going faster. Okay. So the rate, all right, when I have a tailwind is going to be x plus y. The time, okay, when I have the tailwind, remember from the problem, was 3 hours. Okay, I was able to travel 3 hours. Now the rate times the time, all right, rate times time is equal to distance. So here, my rate again is x plus y, and when I multiply it by 3, okay, that is my distance. So it's going to be 3 times x plus y. Now, some of you might have been like, oh, isn't that 960? Yeah, we don't want to put that into our table right here. We want to use our variables first. Okay, now let's go ahead and talk about a headwind. Now, headwind, our actual ground speed is going to be slower, so it's the speed of the aircraft minus the wind. Now the wind is going into us, so we're going to be going slower. So the time it took for us to travel was 4 hours, okay? But the distance is still rate times time, so it's going to be 4 times this x minus y, so that's going to be 4 times x minus y. Okay, now, hopefully, let's go back to the problem here. We know that the distance traveled was 960 miles, okay? So this distance right here, this distance with the tailwind and this distance, they're the same, okay? Both of these right here are 960 miles, so we can use this table here to construct formulas. All right, so here we have 3 times x plus y, that distance, that's with the tailwind, that's equal to 960 miles, and 4 times x minus y, that's the distance with the headwind, that's also equal to 960 miles. So now, what do I have here? All right, well, I have a basic system, okay, system of equations, because I have both x and y as variables I need to solve for. Now, another little tip here is when you have more than one variable, the amount of variables you have in your problem, here I have 2, I have an x and a y, I'm going to need at least 2 separate equations, okay? That's kind of a general rule. So we're talking about a system, I have an x and a y, so I need to have 2 equations to solve for both x and y, and this is it. So now if I can solve for x and y here, and that is going to be dependent upon my knowledge of systems, okay? So again, algebra word problems, involve all the things that you should be learning, all the sub-skills, but let's go ahead and now solve this system. All right, so we have, this was our original setup. Now here, notice I have 3 times this thing right here. I could divide both sides of the equation by 3, and simplify this system. So that's going to be x plus y is equal to 320. Okay, so in other words, I have this 3. I don't have to multiply like that. I could just be like, okay, divide both sides of the equation by 3, and let's just work with this simpler equation there. And then I'll divide both sides of the equation by 4, and I got this simpler version right there. So now this is the system I want to solve, okay? Now you could distribute this 4 in. You're just going to be doing extra work. Again, in algebra, you always want to be thinking smarter, not harder. Okay, so x plus y is equal to 320, and x minus y is equal to 240. Let's go ahead and solve for x and y. And hopefully, if you're really up to speed on solving systems, and you need to be, to handle this particular problem, you can see I could just do the elimination method. I could just add these two down or add these two equations together. By the way, if you're not quite sure what's going on here, you need to look at my additional videos on systems, or better yet, just go into my Algebra 1 course in my Math Help program. But you can use a substitution method here or the elimination or linear combination method. I have tons of videos on that in my YouTube channel in my algebra playlist. So if you're having trouble with this algebra, check that stuff out. All right, so here I have x plus x, that's 2x. The y's are eliminated, plus y and negative y, that's 0y, those go away. And then 320 and 240 is 560. So I have 2x is equal to 560. I can divide both sides of the equation by 2. So that gives me x is equal to 280. Now, what was x? Okay, let's go back up here. And remember, x was the speed of the airplane in miles per hour, right? Way back here. Remember, we let x equal the, that's the air speed of the plane in miles per hour. Okay, so we got that now. Okay, so the airplane, its airspeed is 280 miles per hour. Now, I need to solve for y. So when I'm solving for y, I can use any one of these equations right here. So let's say I'll use this equation, x plus y is equal to 320. Okay, x plus y is equal to 320. So now that I know that x is equal to 280, I can just replace this x with 280 and solve for y. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now. So 280 plus y is equal to 320. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 280 from both sides of the equation, and that gives me y is equal to 40, okay, or 40 miles per hour. And if you recall, that was the wind speed. So the airplane is going 280 miles per hour. So here's our little plane right here. It's going 280 miles per hour, and the wind is going 40. Okay, sometimes it's going 40 as a tailwind, or it's going 40 miles per hour as a headwind. Okay, but the airplane is at 280 miles per hour. And that is it. Okay, so this particular problem, this is a little bit more involved because it did involve a system, and there was two variables. You know, this might be a little bit, maybe a little advanced for some of you out there. Now, if you're reviewing algebra and you're looking at word problems, you might want to start with some simpler word problems. Again, I have multiple videos on different word problems in my algebra playlist and pre-algebra playlist, so check those out as well. But the main idea, again, is always going to be this general procedure, okay? Read the problem, okay, model the information, assign the variable or variables, build equations, and in order to build equations, you may need to know formulas like the ones we just talked about. Rate times time is equal to distance. Solve those equations, and then make sure you answer the question appropriately. If you follow that, those general guidelines, you're going to do very well with algebra word problems. Okay, so hopefully this problem was fun. Okay, you're like, yeah, it was lots of fun. Well, you know what I mean. Was it helpful? And if it was helpful in some way, please consider smashing that like button. That definitely helps me out. And if you're new to my YouTube channel, please consider subscribing. I've been on YouTube for a long time. My goal is to teach math in a clear and understandable way. Okay, nobody should be failing math these days. If you're doing the right things, taking notes. Okay, there's a ton of free resources out there for you to go find the help that you need. Okay, so there's a ton of options. If you like my teaching style, please take advantage of all the videos that I've made on my channel, and I'm making stuff all the time. So that's why hopefully you'll become a subscriber. But my best math help will always be within my math help program. Okay, so with that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your mathematics adventures. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.